Hi, my name is Barry and I like kids. Hi, Barry. When did you first realize this was a problem? No, I think it's pathetic and horrible that I should have to qualify that in any way. But I guess we live in pathetic and horrible times full of pathetic and horrible people, so maybe I do. I don't like being made to feel like I'm some kind of predator, you know? I don't want to be put in the any kind of mental space, even to the minimum degree necessary, where I have to deny those shitty opinions. That's a horrible thing to do to someone. I can't just talk to some kid wandering around because someone might think I'm going to snatch him up and take him home and sell him on the black market to some Eastern European child smugglers. That's not cool, man. So I try to take all that out of my mind and just deal with kids the way I want to. Myself and my wife, Andrea, we were walking down Mary Street one day to get to our doctor's, and it was like lunchtime, so all the kids were coming out, and they were all running at me, you know, because I was going past the school, and they're all screaming and laughing and joking around, and it was lovely, you know. It was a scene of happiness. You don't see much scenes of unadulterated happiness anymore. It's usually tempered with some bullshit, but this was just pure, you know. So I said to Andrea, I said, "Oh, I'll get a photo of this, you know." And she said, "No, no, no." So that was the end of that. Just delete all that crap from your brain, right? It's not interesting and I don't want to have to think about it. This is going to be how smart and funny kids are. It's going to be whimsical. Remember Whimsy? All the kids were into Whimsy, weren't they? Tell you a joke about Coke. You believe what you're told when you're a kid. A big fat man comes down your chimney and gives you a Lego. Although that actually happened to me a few times. Lego. Who doesn't like Lego? Now keep your Lego, man, and give me Discover Ireland. Remember Discover Ireland? Jesus. The only people who got Discover Ireland were the children of teachers. That was like a rule. If your parents are teachers, you're getting to Discover Ireland for Christmas. Yeah, anyway, so I'm going to talk about kids. I love kids, and I think I'm good with them. I might even find out someday. If Jesus gives me one. I think they're great. They say funny things, and they like playing games, and they're cool, and I like them. I mean, I treat them like they're adults, you know? I treat them like grown-ups. For the most part, that's fine. You get the best stuff out of kids if you treat them like equals. Like sometimes I'll be playing around with some kids, and one of them will start crying over some stupid shit, and then I'll remember, oh, it's a kid. But basically, treat them like equals. They're usually the smartest people in the room, and they come out with wonderful insights on a wide variety of matters if you just listen to them. I mean, they don't have the vocabulary, but by God, they have the brain smarts. When I was in California, my ex-wife's sister's kid was around the house for a couple of days, and he was 2 years old then, and he could only count up to 2. And I'd been trying to get him to say 3. We all had. And everyone went off, and it was just me and the kid. And I said, "All right, now's the time, man. Now's your time. This is your time." "When's it going to be my time?" "Now is your time." Okay, say this. Say 1, 2, 3. And he said 1, 2, and then 2. No, then 3. 1, 2, 3. 2. No, not 2. 1. No, not 1 either. 3. And he just started laughing. I said, "No, you're not listening. So here's how you do, when the one track doesn't work, you try a different track, right? Like even with grown-ups, you do that." So there was little marbles lying around. I took 3 marbles, and I showed him 3 marbles in my hand. And I said, "How many marbles do I have in my hand?" And he grabbed one of them, and he said, 2! Hey, do you know what really annoys people? Let's say you want to annoy... This is something I just thought, and it's particular to Clonmel. I mean, if you're a smart person, you'll probably be able to transfer it to wherever you live. But this is about Clonmel, where I live. And let's face it, if you're listening to this, and you made it this far, you're probably a smart person. I can't imagine any idiot making it this far. So here's how to annoy someone. Let's say some random person you want. Let's say the person you're married to, just randomly. And you're driving along town, and you're looking for a parking place. Now here's how the parking place logic works. If you find one on O'Connell Street or Gladstone Street, that's like the golden secret, right? But that never happens. It never works out like that, does it? I can see a few places down in the quay and you'd be like, yeah, I'm going to wait. You idiot! There is nothing in town. There are no parking places. Will you ever learn? There is never any parking places uptown. So you just give up, don't you? You just give up and you go to the parking place across from the cinema. What used to be the Super Value parking place. That's a symbol of defeat. That means you have given up. Yeah? Yeah. Because no one's going into the Mary Street parking place. They put the barriers in there and now it feels like you're going to visit someone in prison. So no. Not going there. It's going to be the Super Value parking place. I give up. So now you know what it feels like to park in the Super Value parking place. There's a certain level of indignity about it. About loss and despair. So let's say you're with somebody who's driving. Let's call this person your wife. Let's give her the random name Andrea. And let's say she parks in there. Now you don't say anything about it because, you know, you're waiting for the time. And then you go to wherever you're going, which is probably somewhere around O'Connell Street, which means you're going to have to walk back through all the places you passed. And then there's a parking place. Now this is important. This parking place has to have been not available before. It has to have become available only since you've parked there. Somebody's just pulled out. And you look at the parking place and you say, look, you could have parked in there. It drives them crazy. And it works every time. There is a big resale value on that. It works every time. Every single time. Just goes crazy. That's nothing to do with kids. That's just, I feel like I'm going to sprinkle all of these podcasts with little advice and little stories. When I was a baby, my mother took my first teeth and my first lock of hair and put them in my first shoe. Still have it. That grisly memento is still there, lurking at the back of a coeval whatnot, where she put all the milestone stuff from when I was a kid. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that word correctly. Coeval. Coeval? Coeval. It means from the same time, but I don't know how to pronounce things. I just see words. I read words and I just take them in and I say, yes, I will use that word again. And whatnot just means little three-corner stand. There's no point in using fancy words if I'm going to explain them all. God damn it, you people. You're animals. She put all the milestone stuff from when I was a kid. There's not much in it, obviously, because you know me. So there's a medal for high school basketball. There's a certificate for something I can't remember doing. There's a photo of me with my half-Greek first cousin, with whom I did not get along. I once tried to throw out a window, but I'm alright with her now. But I did try to throw her out a window, and then I tried to bite her face off another time. So my teeth and my first lock of hair are in this red shoe. And I told my mother that only serial killers take parts of their victims and store them as trophies. You know? And that given this exclusivity, that this is really the only group of people that do this kind of thing, things were not looking good for her. She was not amused. And I told her further, I said if she started sending me notes where the letters were cut out of newspaper headlines, I would be forced to call the police. So my mother just switched off at this point. And my dad just shouted in from the next room. He said, your mother isn't a serial killer. So that was the end of that. My dad has a great way of just ending any kind of discussions with very, very dramatic final lines. I used to get chocolate eggs for Easter years ago. Every Easter morning, I would go to rip apart the eggs to get at the little chocolate bars within. Because they used to put the chocolate bars inside the eggs. They used to be underneath them or on top of them. They used to actually be inside. And every morning I'd go to rip them apart and get at the little things inside. But every morning there wasn't any. Yeah. And my mother always looked mystified. She said, oh, you must have got ones they missed, she said. You must have, that's unlucky now. Every so often they'll miss one and you just get, that's bad news. But this happened every single year. And despite my many attempts to investigate and to examine the cartons and so on, I never worked out what was going on. And a long time afterwards, while I was at university, I learned that my mother had been stealing my chocolate. When I was very small, my mother got into a mood one Easter Saturday night when she realised she'd actually have traded her kingdom for a horse made out of chocolate. and as there was a small mountain of chocolate in the next room, the solution seemed obvious. So she just opened each egg, she took the bars out and put the egg back together again. Chocolate was bad for me anyway. In a way, she was doing me a favour. Apparently it was easy at first because I didn't really notice, but as my age grew, her chocolate thieving skills grew exponentially, and soon she was separating the two halves of the chocolate egg with surgical precision and expertly replacing the foil wrapper to its original position. She said she felt bad about it at first, but later accepted the challenge presented to her by fate and welcomed the opportunity to test her skills. That was my chocolate. And if my dad said, look, I can buy you a chocolate egg, she says, oh no, no, she says, no, chocolate's bad for me, no, you shouldn't be buying me chocolate eggs now. No, so just buy them for the kid, that's me, and then you can steal his chocolate, my chocolate. Yeah? Didn't find out till long time afterwards. What can you do about it then? Nothing. I was at a confirmation party in Carlow earlier this year. I've found myself in Carlow a lot recently, and I would never normally go anywhere near Carlow or stop there, but circumstances have forced my hand. And at this confirmation party, there were lots of little kids running around outside, and a room full of grown-ups drinking and talking about important things. So naturally I have no interest in that, so I went out and started playing around with the kids. Now, as I said, I treat everybody the same, because it's easier. I make zero allowances for you if you're 90 years old, or if you're 5 years old, or if you're blind, or you have one leg or whatever, I don't care. Now occasionally this lands me in trouble. And I was using all sorts of unpleasant language. And an 8-year-old stopped me and shouted at me, "You're not allowed to say those words." So I explained, I politely screamed back that first of all I have a degree, and secondly I'm 41 years old. When you're 41 years old you can say any words you like, and you can stay up as late as you like, and there's not a goddamn thing anyone can do about it. That's one of the good things about being 41 years old. Right? And I was explaining all this to her. She didn't really relate to the material. So I told her that I just saw it on the internet. So she relaxed then. She went over to the nearest grown-up who wasn't me to check. Now this other grown-up had to further check with a nearby 6-year-old, but a consensus was reached that I should not, in fact, be using these words, at least not around children. Like the 6-year-old said, "You shouldn't be using these words, not around children." And I said, alright, fair enough. I said, oh yeah, pretty much I conceded defeat. And the 8-year-old charged over and said, "So now you know that the internet isn't right about everything." Which, again, is one of these insights that you can only get from children. I said, yeah, well, good for you. You learned that early, didn't you? What we were doing was, well, I went out, I saw a bunch of lads running around, and there was a bunch of girls running around. And I went out, my original intention was to play with the lads, right? So I went out, they were playing football or something. So I went out with the lads, and they were running around, and I didn't know how to break into that. Like, I don't know how to start that conversation, so I didn't. But one of the little girls came over and said, "Oh, we're playing hide and seek. Do you want to play?" And I said, yes, I do. That's my jam. Right? Now, let me get this straight. Hide and seek is fantastic. Hide and seek is one of the very few games I know of that doesn't, like, it has no allowances for age. I mean, not even disability, maybe, depending on how you play it. But it doesn't have any, like, I'm 41. And if we were playing with a 70-year-old and a 5-year-old, we would be playing that game exactly the same. Right? Like, you don't hide in an easier place if you're dealing with a smaller kid. That's not how it works. It's just perfect for mixed age groups. Hide and seek is fantastic. Right? So I was bringing my A game to this hide and seek thing, and okay, anyway, never mind. The point is, it's great. If you have a mixed group, hide and seek is the ideal game. And if grown-ups tell you, "Oh, I don't want to play hide and seek," get over yourself, man. You're just afraid I'm going to find you because you're so big. Anyway, we were playing hide and seek, the rules to which were carefully explained by the 6-year-old, and there was special emphasis placed on the fact that I was expected to count to 25 instead of the usual 10. Because it was a big place, and they wanted a bit of time to run around, and a lot of it was open garden, so I get that, like, it makes sense to count to a bigger number, right? So, but they were making a big deal about this thing, saying you have to count to 25 instead of 10. Do you understand that, And I politely screamed that I know how to count 25, and I don't need a 6-year-old to explain that to me. And the 8-year-old came in and said, well, at least your degree wasn't a complete waste of time. So again, these kids are great. Kids in general are fantastic. Yeah, once kids figure out that you have zero authority, any kind of and any kind of physical violence is taken off the table, every conversation is basically a roast battle. A comedy roast battle where they try to figure out the most personally hurtful thing to you and make a joke out of it, and that's fine. Like I said after the first thing, the first podcast, I was supposed to talk about Koreans and I didn't. Well, I'm going to tell you now. I was at a party with Koreans one time, and it was all Koreans except me. I'm a white person, hi. And this little Korean kid comes up and I don't know, he doesn't speak English. And he says something to me in Korean. And I said, I don't know, man. I don't know. And the mother pulls him away and says something to him. And also in Korean. And then someone explains what they're saying. I said, what are they saying? And they said, oh, the little kid came up and he said, why do you have a big nose? Look at your big nose. You have a big nose. And then the mother pulled him away and said, no, no, all white people are like that. We went to the shops today to get milk. We get no, not rice milk, not almond milk, not oat milk, soy milk. We get soy milk with a subtle sweet taste. I guess because the soy milk's not so bad. I'm not too impressed with the whole vegetarian thing. The only reason I'm into it is for moral reasons. But I think the diet sucks and all the food is horrible. But, that's the price you have to pay for being a better person than you. While I was in the shop, a kid rolled past on his bicycle. He was about 8 years old. And he had a kind of a pale orange top veering towards salmon. Like a t-shirt, right? A regular t-shirt. And matching shorts. Not like board shorts, like shorts on a boy. An orange t-shirt, kind of salmonish, orangey, pinky t-shirt, and matching shorts. And that wasn't, the problem. The problem was the look on his face. And even at the 8 years old, there was a definite sense that he realized that he was wearing an orange t-shirt with matching shorts and all of the problems that would bring. And I just thought, when I looked at him, I thought, how exactly did that conversation go that morning between his mother and himself? And did he have that expression on his face at the time? Like, has his face changed expression since then, many hours ago? And I don't think so, because his expression didn't change at all while he was rolling past. He was just a fixed rictus of, I don't want to say confusion, but it's confusion, but with a very strong sense that something was wrong. So like, the other way, I don't know, you get angry or sad sometimes and you're not sure why. It was like that, like he'd just woken up from a dream. And oh, it was terrible. Don't worry, yeah, all the kids are wearing this. No, Mom, they're not. This is definitely wrong. It'll be fine. Look, we got you these for Christmas. Yeah, I know. I wouldn't go swimming in these. Just wear your special little t-shirt. The one you like. The one you like. So I was I was laughing all the way home at this poor little kid who didn't do anything to me. Well, that's the kind of person I am. I got school reports, which were all very similar all the way through primary school. They were all the same, A's all the way, because I'm a fucking genius. But a lot of disciplinary issues. And there was always like a little sentence at the end that said, he has lots of potential if only he'd apply himself. Potential. potential. Yeah, I know what that means. If you're good at something, then you're good at that thing. But if you suck, then what you have is potential. Potential is a big long word that means you suck. And kids aren't stupid. They know when someone's making fun of them. I did. Kids are generally acutely aware of the mild psychological tricks played on them by people calling themselves teachers or grown-ups in general. But they don't say anything because there's no point. And it could end up making things worse. And a small part of you hopes, like a devout Christian with cancer, that there's some sort of overall plan that you haven't been made aware of, where if you just hang on long enough, the guy in charge knows exactly what he's doing and everything's going to work out for the best. But the guy in charge does not know what he's doing, and shit never works out for the best. I take comfort from the fact that you need a certain failure of the imagination to excel at school. Think about it, all the kids who did well in your school are united by a sort of a death of the spirit, dead behind the eyes. A dull acceptance that the pinnacle of human evolution is a well-paying 9-to-5 job, and maybe a few rounds of golf at the weekend. Someone somewhere has confused earning potential with human potential. For the rest of us, weirdos and artists and, I guess, gamers, the very thought of that is chilling. I used to live in an apartment in Riverside, California with some Asian girls. And there were kids wandering around during the day. I don't wander around during the day. Like, especially not in California because it's too hot and bright. And man, hot and bright are two things. That's not my jam. Sometimes, depending on what time of the year, there would be a brief window of overlap between my adventures through the darkness and when the children were going to bed. And on one of these occasions, I was wearing a Batman shirt and I was climbing down a drain pipe. I used to go up on the roof. Anywhere I go, I'll always go to the roof if I can. I just sit on the roof for hours in the middle of the night. Alright, don't ask why. I'd be writing poetry or something, I don't know. So I came down because I had to go to the bathroom. And one of these little kids saw me. And his jaw dropped. And he just looked at me. And he looked at my Batman shirt and he saw me climbing down off the building and he said, "Are you Batman?" I'm not Batman. I'm going to try something different in the next bit, so prepare for some visual aids. I could have phrased that better. Prepare for some visual change. There's a change. This is like me, pick two pictures of me and a lightning bolt in between with some details. It's going to change in a second. Woo, it's all different. All change. You can see that, right? It's just a crumpled piece of paper. Don't worry, it'll all make sense in a second. We have a friend called Sarah. Sarah lives with her family. And one member of this family at the time was a 5-year-old girl called Chloe. We used to go to Sarah's house and hang out and chat with people. And Chloe decided to be my friend. But she found my vocabulary challenging. Which is fair enough, because as I said, I talk to kids like they're grown-ups. So I don't make any allowances, I just say what I'm going to say. And she had to stop every 5 seconds and say, what does this word mean, what does that word mean? And that's fine, that's perfectly reasonable. So I suggested, because I'm Johnny on the teaching moment, I suggested that she make a list of all the unfamiliar words I use and we could look them up and we could find out what they are together. But then, again, I had forgotten that little kids are geniuses. So she decided, instead, to make a list of all the words she knows, and if I want to say something, I have to refer to this list. So the list she wrote out in her little 5-year-old handwriting is what you're looking at right now. And in case you can't read it, the words are house, yeah, bin, fresh, t-shirt, pants, Andrea, car, table, Chloe, Sarah, Barry. Now I did not have the inclination to explain verbs and prepositions and so on. She just thought everyone uses nouns all the time and no linking words. So whatever that's about, I just said, yeah, okay, fine. Communication quickly became impossible. Then that little girl's older sister came down and, without introducing anything, just said to me, "You look like Harry Styles, but older." Which meant nothing to me, but everyone thought it was funny. So I said, "Who's Harry Styles?" And she said, he's in One Direction. And One Direction is a band. It's like a music. They're like kids, but they're in a band. Like they sell a load of records to other kids. It's a really weird kind of dynamic. They're 5 kids and they sell to other kids. I don't know what they're singing about, but one of the guys looks like me apparently, or doesn't look like me, because what would she know about it? They're like Pokemons. One Direction are like Pokemons. You download One Direction onto your phone. It's like an app, but there's 5 little kids in it, little boys in it, and you download the One Direction app, and you go around with your smartphone, and you find them under a bridge, like the water One Directions. You find them under a bridge, and then the fire One Directions are up high, and you can make them fight each other. And when you found them all, you can trade them with your friends. And it took me ages to figure out exactly what One Direction is, because kids, man, they don't like explaining things. So yeah, download the One Direction app today. Apparently it's a lot of fun. I wouldn't know. I don't know anything about it. The only app I have on my phone is the dictionary and Instagram. So that's that bit. The next bit is some serious talk about fertility. Where do babies come from? My intention, if we ever have kids, is to never lie to them. So I don't like when people say, I mean, I know they're trying their best, but they say something like, oh, this baby came from your mummy's tummy, you know, where it was slowly digested by hydrochloric acid, and the vitamins and the good stuff was broken down and used by that person's body as fuel. And the stuff, the parts of the baby that your mother couldn't use, she just pooed it out. So yeah, babies don't come from your mummy's tummies. Well, it's a technical thing, but it matters. Where do babies come from? I never really worried about that. I don't think I ever asked my parents where babies come from. I mean, I found out eventually, obviously, because there was a biology textbook lying around my house, and it went into very graphic detail about where rabbit babies come from, and it was very small matter to work out that roughly the same procedure applied in humans. My mother told me that when she was a kid, she thought babies came from the little black bag that the doctor brought into the house, because that's what they were told. We are, myself and my wife, obviously, are trying to have a baby, which is not as easy as you would expect. I was told when I was, around university age, that having a baby was the kind of thing that was so easy to happen that it could happen by accident, and that this was something to be avoided in general. And be careful, you might have one by accident. So it turns out that may not have been an issue at all. Because we've been married for 3.5 years and nothing. And I'm pretty sure, by the way, because I've seen diagrams and I still have that book with the rabbit in it. So, I'm pretty sure we're doing it the right way. Like, we're not hectic about it. Like, if it turns out Jesus doesn't want to give us a baby, we're not going to waste away in a room full of cobwebs like Mrs. Havisham. Make him love you, Stella! Make him love you, Stella! 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 Oh no, that's different. That's not the same one, is it? That's, what do you call it? Streetcar. That's a Streetcar Named Desire, isn't it? It's not the same thing at all as Great Expectations. Sorry about that. Tennessee Williams. If that's your real name. Someone asked Tennessee Williams, why do you only write about sex and violence, and why do you write about them so explicitly? And he just said, they're the only things worth writing about. Which is fair enough. Cat and Hot Tin Roof. Fiddler on the Roof. If I were a rich man. Somehow. No. Well, that just got away from me. Yeah, never mind. Anyway. So we're not, we're not going to define ourselves as, parents of a child if we have one. I mean, I don't think so. We're not going to redefine who we are as people. We're just going to let the kid sort of determine what the kid needs. So yeah. Fertility issues. There's a band name no one will ever use. Oh, that's not good, is it? This is the first album from Fertility Issues. It's called let's see. Don't. No, my something about my baby. My baby's gone away. No, that's an abortion. Oh, that's terrible. Fertility issues means you haven't even had one. I don't got no baby. No, that's not. That actually just sounds like you don't have a baby. I'm trying to make a track sound like it's sort of a love song, but actually it's about not having a baby because the name of the band is Fertility Issues. You know what? I should have thought. This is what happens when you don't write things down. When you just. I mean, you're coming on a remarkable journey from the beginning of a joke to the end of a joke. That's not exciting. Okay. Sorry about that. Forget about it. Forget about it. So we're trying to have a baby. You know what's not very helpful when you're trying to have a baby? When somebody says, you know, when you stop worrying about it, that's when you'll have the baby. That's not helpful. I know it sounds helpful, but it's not. I know you think it sounds helpful, but again, it's not. What it sounds like is, just shut the fuck up about it because I don't care. Yeah, which, by the way, would be perfectly reasonable if you just said that, instead of pretending like you're giving valuable advice. Alright? Shut the fuck up about having your baby. Nobody cares. I don't care. I don't want to listen to you anymore. See, that's fine. That's honest. But this thing, when you stop worrying about it, that's when it'll happen. No, that is not helpful. That's not helpful. It's like, I'm afraid of spiders, you know? And what kind of a simpleton is going to come up and say, well, why are you afraid of spiders? Your spiders aren't going to do you any harm. Like, the problem is I think it's going to do me harm. Like, that's the problem. Like, I can't just hop on Wikipedia and find out that all the spiders in Ireland are perfectly safe. Like, I could have one of those things inside my mouth and it wouldn't harm me. When you're afraid of spiders, apparently this is news to people, because people keep saying it to me. I would have thought this is obvious. When you're afraid of spiders, the problem is that you're afraid of spiders, not that you have a reason to be afraid of them. I mean, you're going to get... There'd be triggered things, I suppose, like trigger. Oh God, what a horrible word. Just pretend like I never used that. There'll be aspects of a spider's behavior that will activate the fear, like maybe movement or the fucking beady eyes. But I understand that spiders are great and they're wonderful parts of the ecosystem and so on. I'm just terrified of them. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. So if you're coming at me with something that makes sense, then I'm not interested. It's not helpful. It's just... It's a pain in the ass. Sure, spiders are lovely little things. Go fuck yourself, you prick. I feel strongly about this. Look at it. If someone has a peanut butter allergy, right? If someone's allergic to peanut butter, imagine the kind of asshat that's going to go up and say, oh, but peanuts are delicious. Have you tried them in this? Have you tried them in that? Dude, it's a peanut allergy. That's not helpful. But peanuts are delicious. Yeah, okay. And that's what it's like when you tell somebody who's afraid of spiders, or anything, I suppose, that spiders are harmless and that they're being silly. No, they're not being silly. You're being a dick. Dick. Stop being a dick. The only real treatment for this spider fear thing is to go to a psychologist who does, I don't know, I think it's called aversion therapy, where they just basically throw little spiders at you for a half an hour, and then as time goes on, the size of the spider that they throw at you gets bigger and bigger and bigger, until eventually 6 months later they're throwing 20 tarantulas at you, and the idea is that your brain is so freaked out that it just shuts down, and then you don't feel afraid anymore because you've lost the ability to give a shit about anything. So when you've cured of your fear of spiders, you also can't taste red meat anymore. But apparently a side effect of it is that you can speak Chinese. That's how it rewires your brain, right? Why don't you go to a psychologist? I don't know. That's not how I would choose to learn Chinese. They basically switch your brain off and switch it back on again by exposing it to so much psychological trauma that your brain does a calculation and says, I actually cannot deal with this, and shuts down, and then you're not afraid of spiders anymore. The next time you see a spider, you just start speaking Chinese. That's what I've heard anyway. I mean, I might have gotten some of the details wrong. Also, this fertility thing, of course, attracts I'm sure, apart from being crucified, that this was the main business of witches in the Middle Ages. Was 50% doing abortions using witch hazel, and 50% helping couples to have babies, perhaps also using witch hazel, or St. John's wort, or even primrose oil, I don't know. But I'm not having any of this witchy stuff either. No, sir. No crazy folk remedies. I'm not burying a potato under the bump in the field, you know? I'm not lighting 12 candles under the statue of St. Bridget in the Church of Freedom somewhere up the country. My aunt did that, and she has 5 babies now. Yeah, that's great. But believe it or not, what happened to your aunt is not data. Right? That's not information. That's just something that happened to your aunt. And that woman shouldn't have any kids. Have you seen her? Oh my god. I mean, she's not allowed to drive. But, yeah, never mind. I'm not going to walk around the holy tree 50 times. Not doing that. I am not going to keep a pet rabbit and give him a name that rhymes with a certain fruit. These are all folk remedies, by the way. I'm not going to bet on a racehorse, the name of which, when the letters are transferred into numbers, add up to a prime number, which is a very old folk remedy for fertility. I'm not doing that. I mean, I'm not going to pore over racing results just to check and see which horse adds up to a prime number. That's ridiculous. I've also heard that if you turn off your mobile phone for 24 consecutive hours, now that helps. I could do that, but it wouldn't be for the purposes of fertility. I'm not doing that either. So I guess we're going to find out. We have gone to the doctors and the gynecologists, and they've done a bunch of tests, and they've given us a bunch of information, and I've learnt lots of new things. I learnt a new word, endometriosis, which is perhaps unhelpfully an inflammation of the endometrium. And also I learnt all about polycystic, which is, of course, the Greek for more than one cystic. So maybe that's why we can't have a baby, because there's a bunch of stuff in there that's not supposed to be in there. A bunch of junk. We need to declutter, and then we can have a baby. Or, as I said, if the universe has decided that that it's probably a bad idea to let me raise a kid, and it might be, I don't know. I might be a terrible parent. I mean, I'm really bad at taking care of myself, so I don't know. Or it might be great. It might be the makings of him. Do you know what would be the makings of him, that fella now? If he had a baby, that'd straighten him out, wouldn't it? It'd be the makings of him. Maybe. I don't know. I'd like to find out. So we'll see. I'm not going to panic about it, but it's something we're definitely interested in, and it's something we want. And my baby always gets what she wants. So that's today's little adventure in podcasting. It's a short one today, but that's okay. There's so much you can talk about kids before it gets boring, so I stopped. I don't know what I'm going to do next week. It's going to be a surprise to me as well. Any suggestions, feel free to make them. Again, as always, if you like this podcast, please tell your friends, upvote, subscribe, put it on your blog so people can see it, and I can get more feedback. And if you don't like it, if you hate it, please tell everybody you know. If you really don't like this thing, it's important that you tell everybody you know and why you don't like it. It'll be very helpful to me. Thank you. Oh, I got it. Fertility Issues is the band, and the name of the song is Where My Baby At. Right? Where My Baby At by Fertility Issues. And I am